Philip. You know as well as I do that the man saved countless lives. For God's sake, he even saved mine. This whole country owes him a debt of gratitude." The vice president lifted his hands, gesturing for the president to calm down. "I know that, Craig, and I fully acknowledge that the man is a hero, but we cannot allow his past actions to cloud our judgment about the incredible danger he represents to this country. He answers to no one and is in sole possession of advanced technology we don't understand. In the past, we have declared individuals as national security threats for far less." The president shook his head. "I talked to the man and looked into his eyes, which is why I believe he'd never do anything to harm this country. You have read his service record, even the classified parts. He is a patriot, Philip, a true hero." The vice president sipped his whiskey and nodded. "Be that as it may, it still doesn't explain the technology he's in control of. We suspect that it came from some research his father, the renowned scientist Dr. Robert Freeman, did secretly. But we cannot even talk to them since they both seem to have fallen off the face of the earth and are nowhere to be found. Don't you understand that if Michael Freeman changes his mind, changes his intentions, or decides that the current political structure no longer suits him, he has the ability to end us all? Jesus, Craig, we can't even see him coming, let alone stop him. Other world leaders are having the same thoughts. They are scared, and scared people do dangerous things. Besides, if he is such a patriot, why is he hiding? Why didn't he share his technology with us? That fact alone makes his intentions highly suspicious." The president walked to the cabinet and poured himself another glass of whiskey. "That is fear talking, Philip. You need to trust in people a bit more. Stop being automatically suspicious and afraid of those who are outside your sphere of influence. Remember, we were elected to serve the nation, not to rule our citizens. Michael Freeman is not a danger to us. Why is that so hard for you to understand?" "I do understand, Mr. President, but it would be foolish not to take some preventive measures in case things don't go in the direction you hope they will. We owe it to those same people who elected us to keep them safe." President Garner closed his eyes, wishing that the things Philip Kane had said weren't logical, but he had to grudgingly admit that they were. "Okay, Philip, but nothing active or offensive. As you said, just in case. You have my permission." Vice President Kane smiled approvingly. "It's the right thing to do, Craig. The sensible thing." A little while later, after his visitor left, the president finished another glass of whiskey. It was his third today, something he caught himself doing far too often lately. It was still a long way until the evening, but with all the stress of the office, sometimes he really needed it. The vice president was logical and probably saw his suspicion as a prudent course of action. But for some reason it felt wrong. Chapter 1. Pagan Island, Pacific Ocean. Michael was lying on the beach with his eyes closed, just soaking up the sun. It was the most relaxed he'd felt in a long while. He couldn't believe that almost 6 months had passed since they'd arrived on Pagan Island, the place that would be their home for the foreseeable future. It was beautiful, with the blue water of the Pacific Ocean and the lush green carpeting of vegetation over the land. It was like a photoshopped postcard. They had spent 6 months in this idyllic place without something bad happening. 6 months just working towards their goals. The only thing troubling him was that this tranquil environment was too peaceful. And just like the calm before the storm, he knew it couldn't last. Behind him, a massive structure reflected the light from the morning sun. But that structure wasn't really what it seemed. It was actually a holographic illusion made to look like an enormous self-sufficient ecology greenhouse, or biodome, as everybody was calling it. The entire structure was more than 750 feet, 230 meters high at the center, and appeared somewhat translucent. At first he'd had his doubts that the whole sleight of hand would work, but it did. They had even created a website explaining their experiments with growing GM-free plants in a controlled environment, and several papers had been published on their preliminary discoveries. They were fake, of course, but Max had made sure they would stand up, even under the most skeptical scrutiny. The original inflatable shell was long gone, replaced with the outer hull of the ship Max was building, not that the holographic projection showed any change beneath it. And people were already living inside it in the spacious apartments built all around the residential level. That was the first thing Max had constructed on the ship, places for people to live.